people didn't only live there. I mean, they lived in other places, and, people from other places sold things, and, people get employed, and you can put in sort of more money into your community if you're making it there, because nyinyi ndio mnafanya kazi. Even if you're going to be given kazi ya kutoa vitu kutoka ship, you're still contributing. But now you don't have that.
The reason why I asked this question, whenever people have fought for change, there have been consequences. Recently, we had the strike of doctors. And if you looked at historically, people who actually started these movements before they even had a union, people were jailed, they were removed from their houses forcibly where they had children, people had to leave the country. It is not a new story. Whenever people want to bring about change, that's what comes about. So if indeed the governor, as you say, put up a fight, it was his job to put up a fight. And it was his job to continue putting up a fight, not to give up at some point.
I get it, sir. But I want to ask you one question, and it's in terms of framing. Whenever we as Kenyans talk about the struggles that we have, we're always talking about it in an adversarial way. So now the way you're putting it is in terms of, let's fight this government. Fine. But why then do we have a country?
Not necessarily fight the government.
No, but you see, the thing is, no. The national government should fight for my rights as a Kenyan.
And if they don't...
And in the event that they are actually not fighting for your rights, there are people who are custodians of certain areas upon whom the responsibility lies to continually engage with national government.
Okay, but you see, for instance, let's talk about other countries. I don't like doing this, but sometimes in Kenyan parlance, we have to think of other countries in order for us to think of ourselves as people. Can you imagine a country in a sort of developed part of the world, like actually cannibalizing one part of the economy completely with no positives? I mean, we've pretty much sold that pot, and we've made sure that we've sold it. Like no ifs and buts. What's the upside to that? How long can you keep living in a country?
When you say sold, what do you mean? I actually don't understand. When you say sold, what do you mean?
I mean, it's not ours anymore. Do you need 10 years to make that a fact? Do you need 10 years to know that the port...
Actually, I don't really know. That is exactly the truth, because I wasn't aware that we sold the port.
No, here's the thing. That thing is gone. I'm telling you right now.
Who bought it, if I may ask?
I don't know who it went to, but it's not ours.
You see now, what you're saying is what we call a dominant narrative, that the port was sold. And I don't have the facts. What I do know is that there have been attempts to privatize it, but this isn't new. Ports are privatized all over the world. It doesn't mean that if you privatize it, you've given it. You've more or less leased it, but not given it away.
But at the same time, I'll just come in, Suleiman, that anything we've seen history, anything that is privatized ends up not being ours anymore. The public transport system was privatized. Is it ours? No. We no longer have control of it. Healthcare, it's slowly moving towards privatization. We have no control for the prices. We have no control for access, because now it's money that speaks. So the same way, we said the people of the coast are not fighting. Suleiman has come with an example that when something was being taken away, no matter how much you fight, it will still be taken away.
You see, Eric said that you should engage. Engagement doesn't mean that you become necessarily adversarial, though in a situation like this, it is an adversarial situation. If the rights of the bulk of the people who supposedly benefit from a natural heritage like the port cannot benefit, then it is something that must be spoken about extremely loudly, and positions have to be taken. But if you're going to talk benefits, do your homework and ask yourself who the beneficiaries of these so-called privatizations are, and if some of those very people who you think fought for it did not benefit from it.
Suleiman, let's hear from other callers as well. Thank you for calling this morning.
Thank you, Eric.
Solomon is in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I want to disagree with Suleiman entirely. One, we have natural resources for the country, and they are all over Kenya, and Mombasa Port being one of them. See, you cannot say that it was taken out from Mombasa, yet it benefits the Eastern African region. So it's still a state corporation. It benefits everyone because it brings revenue to the national government, and that money is being devolved to other county governments. And for him saying that it was taken away, it's wrong, because after Joho fought and he was harassed, who was given the 2 baths to manage? Joho's brother. And you remember Muhammad Ali fought against that, went to demonstration regarding that scenario. But moving forward is devolution is helping us to distribute resources into maybe the coastal region. A lot has happened. And I'll tell you for the fact, after devolution came, that's when maybe nilipanda basi, nikaenda Tana River on a tarmac road. Currently, 2 weeks ago, I went to Peketoni. The road is almost over. This is about devolution and water, electricity. That is the kind of development that we want as people of Mombasa. Because us as citizens also have a responsibility to put into the development. The government cannot give you beans, maize to make it there. There's also, we need an input from the citizens themselves. Yes.
Okay, Solomon, thank you very much. Let's hear from Karaoke in Lavington. Good morning, Karaoke.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to correct. I was hoping that one of the trio, Eric, Du, and Muga, would call out some inaccuracies. For example, Hussein Khalid of Hack Africa, I was listening very keenly, said the Masai Mara visitor revenues go to KWS. That cannot be unchallenged. They don't.
He said
the revenue.
No, he said it goes to the county, and that Taita Taveta and that Savo East and West go to KWS. That's what he said.
Oh, then I misconstrued what he said.
Yeah.
But then also, earlier on, City Muga spoke on the Muslim population being concentrated in the southern part of the coast, and I could see on TV that Nasra was, shaking her head in disapproval. But yes, that area, although also inhabited by immigrant communities such as the Kamba, I'm talking about Kwale, is inhabited mostly by the Digo, who are predominantly Muslim. He may not be aware, Muga, that northern coast of Kenya comprises of, the Boni, Kipini, the Lamu archipelago areas, which are all predominantly Muslim. And save for immigrant communities in the coast, the so-called Wabara, it is actually the Giriama, Rabai, Pokomo, Taitas, Tavetas, pockets of Duruma, and the likes of Wafria, descendants of the freed slaves who are Christian at the coast. And these are mostly found in the central and hinterland areas of Coast Province. Of course, hinterland, I mean the Taitas, the Pokomos, and so on and so forth. I was also hoping that Nasra at least would call out the first caller, it was a gentleman, for stating that the Lamu was in the southern coast of Kenya. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that Nasra had mentioned in her sentiments IPK as among the earlier agitators for, like a coastal affirmative action. But what she neglected, in my opinion, to mention is that its founder, Sheikh Balala, was belligerent in his agitation and even advocated for the creation of an Islamic Party of Kenya. So we should not blow, hot and cold. We are calling for, let's have national affirmative action for Coast Province, but don't forget that the Coastal Province also has other communities. So when you call out for the founding of an Islamic Party of Kenya, what are you trying to achieve? I mean, are you doing that at the expense of Christians, maybe peace-loving, abiding people who just want to live in the coast? And that's why
was that his messaging? Was that Sheikh Balala's message when he was agitating for the formation of IPK and registration of IPK? Was he saying that he wants it to be the only party in the coast?
No, he wasn't saying so. But he was rallying not the entire of Kenya, but the coast. But the coast is not just for Muslims. And that's why I would agree with the gentleman who hinted that certain sections of agitators, I think the second last caller, he said that the certain sections of agitators tend to be adversarial in a way that undermines the cohesiveness of the country at the expense of a smaller lot or at the expense of a cause being perpetrated by that agitator. Wangari Maathai, who has also been mentioned in today's discussions, marshaled support for her conservation cause to all, because she was committed. She did not dwell on conservation for Central Kenya, which was where she hailed from. She was committed. She was assertive. So when we call for affirmative action, when we say, can we correct historical injustices, let's also try and be tactful in the way that we draw support from everywhere without, and I think part of the reason why they lose in their cause is when they tend to be that adversarial.
But just to cut in a bit on the IPK issue, just because X group is advocating for rights doesn't mean it's denying another group their rights. And it was an example of a unique group standing up for, because nobody else will speak on your behalf. But at the same time, I will repeat, just because X group is advocating for their rights doesn't mean it's going to deny other people their rights. So it's like the Black Lives and All Lives Matter. When people say Black Lives Matter, the people are like, no, you can't say that. Because then it's when power is being taken from other people, no one wants to lose power, even if it's just sharing equally.
But I think also matters of religion are very sensitive. Black Lives Matter transcends religion. There could be blacks or Muslim, and they are actually a significant part of the black in the US are increasingly Muslim. When we talk about IPK and Islamic Party,
but IPK was not advocating for Sharia law, so it wasn't talking on religious grounds. It is just a name to rally people together.
That's true, but you also have to look at context. This is a guy who sprang up in the middle of the Moi era. I think it was initially. In the coast, single party rule at the time. I mean, we should also look at context.
Let me ask you this question. Why must it be that somebody who has a position that they want to take on an issue, if they have an Islamic or religious sounding name, what stops other people of other faiths from supporting him? Because he wasn't anti any other faith, as Nasra has been trying to say. What stops other people from joining that cause if they think that that particular cause is a worthwhile cause?
Hussein leads, I think, is one of the officials of Haki Africa. And I've seen one of the officials of Haki is from Nyanza. And they don't, in my opinion, although their cause is centered on an area that is seen to be predominantly Muslim, and when I watch news, I see that a lot of the things that they agitate for, or the families or communities that they advocate for justice are Muslims. But you see the organizations, when you have people that transcend your religion, but you're leading an organization that is centered on the coast, but you have people from Abara, it draws even people from other communities, other religions into you, because you tend to portray yourselves as inclusive, and that's a good thing. I think that's how we should do. But we are calling for cohesiveness and affirmative action for example, a certain region to be considered to be part of a wider region, which is Kenya. But in the same breath, we should not, through our messaging, be divisive or showing disproportionate. We're showing like we have disproportionate preference to a certain part of the country, but we are at the same breath saying we should all be seen to be. We should all be treated fairly.
But what if that disproportionate element is actually a reality?
It's a messaging. I think that's what he's saying. For example, if you come up with MRC and say Pwani si Kenya and you want to secede, I mean, what are you doing?
You are saying you don't need this government because you feel they have treated you as such. So you're simply making it plain that, folks, since this is how you've treated us, let us also make it plain. We don't really need to be part of you.
So and how do you expect to engage?
What I'm saying is that you can adopt different strategies. You can decide to go Kifua, like MRC, or you can try to be. One of the good attributes of a leader is an English word called tact. You can also try and be tactful. You draw sympathies from across the national divide and still make your point and draw a lot of support. That calls for tact. And unfortunately, we find that our leaders lack, or the leadership lacks tact and creates division.
Kariuki, we hear you. Thank you very much. Well, let's hear from other callers as well. Thank you for calling this morning.
No issues. Thanks, Mike.
Stella in Kitale, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you?
We are all fine, thank you.
Yeah.
What's your contribution to this?
What's the topic?
Okay, I think we have someone. Let's bring in Lydia. Lydia in Parklands, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning,
Thank you
Lydia.
for giving me a chance. I agree with the previous caller 100%. If I want to have a debate with you, I'm not supposed to come there and say, I know better than you. You are ignoring us. That's not the way to decide on a problem. Tactfulness. Come there and say, we are good friends. Let us talk and see how we can solve some problems that we have. That attitude that we are friends, let us sit together and talk. That is the correct way. But if I come there and say, I want to fight with you, I want to argue with you, I want to debate with you, you are a loser 100%. So give everyone a chance. Say we are both friends. Let us talk and try to see how we can make our lives easier for all of us together.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, SpiceFM.
Thank you. Aisha, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Aisha.
Yeah, I'll just thank you so much for the opportunity. So what I find is unfortunate is that there's been a big conflation between Post and Islam and Swahili, and it's unfortunate that the hosts are also taking that angle, you have the Mijikenda community, you have the Orma community, you have there is a different Mijikenda, Digo, Giriama, and all that. But at the same time, these voices are not heard. So tell me, when was the last time you heard about, a Mijikenda cabinet minister, a Boni community MP? Maybe most of you don't even know who a Boni is. And when was the last time you heard about a Sani community, hunter-gatherer community from the coast? Nobody probably even knows about them. So let's stop in circles, inflating about IPK, arguing against IPK. What about all these people who don't even have a party because they don't have spoons? Think of the Boni. Well, they're still not living in their villages right now because of the Al-Shabaab. The Al-Shabaab are also their enemies. They are also attacking them. But what happened to the Mpekitoni attack? Instead, it was made like Muslims against Christians. It is Swahilis against Kikuyus. But because the Boni just happened to be Muslim, they were equally oppressed and told, like, the schools were closed. Up until now, the schools are closed. Some kids have not been going to school for the last 6 years. Yet we're here saying there's no marginalization of the post. We're trying to talk about let's see what we can do for the future. It's not the future. What can we do now? And the first thing we can do now is educating ourselves that the coast is not equal to Swahili. It is not equal to Muslim. And other Kenyans should respect it as fellow Kenyans. And every discussion about the coast should not be changed into a discussion of Muslim against Christian, or Swahilis against Muslim. The coast has over 20 different ethnic communities. And I'm not talking about the ones who came recently after independence, like the major communities. I'm talking about the minority ethnic communities. So the Mijikenda, as an example, Kwale governor has done a really good job of, improving its constituencies. We've seen the changes that have happened in Lamu. We've seen the changes in Taita Taveta, thanks to devolution. Devolution has only been 20 years, for God's sake. So you can't expect community to all of a sudden change in the last 10 years.
So do you see that there is some, Aisha, do you see that there is some progress in what we're talking about now? Just looking at all this conversation and putting it together, do you see that there is some progress, and in your opinion, will it take some time to be able to change some of these things that we are seeing? Is there improvement and getting better?
Yes, there has been some improvement, and it will take some time. But also, the government of Kenya and other Kenyans from the coast should not expect the same trajectory for the coast as other parts of Kenya. And what happened last year with the 1 man, 1 shilling vote, where many Kenyans were agitating for, no, because there are more Kenyans in central Kenya than a place like Lamu, then why should a shilling in Lamu be equal to a shilling in central Kenya? Forgetting what Lamu has gone through. Forgetting that the colonial government was not in place to put infrastructure in Lamu because they were not deserving, because they were protected, or they were Muslim, or they were not having a, what do you call it? In fact, they call it productive livelihood. In hunter-gatherer is not a productive livelihood. Fishing is not a productive livelihood. Only farming is a productive livelihood. So they deserve roads to transport the infrastructure, the farm produce. Why did it take almost 60 years for us to have a port in Lamu? Why? And when it was not done properly, in that we had the national government, the National Land Commission, bet 2,000 hectares of land, you people who are living there are spoken. And this is only 2013 we're talking about, after devolution. So yes, devolution is nice on paper, but is it implemented correctly? Are people actually following the law? No, because if they were, the Lamu community will not need to go to court. The Mombasa community will not need to go to court to demand that the port support the local community, to demand for compensation when the rights are affected. If things were going right, they will not be in court.
We hear you, Aisha. Thank you very much for calling in this morning.
You're welcome.
Asante sana. The conversation continues right here, SpiceFM and online, SpiceFM KE. We're seeing many comments coming in. We'll be sampling some of them when we come out of this break. Also, we'll be taking more of your calls, 0719-012-600. We're talking about marginalization of the coastal parts of Kenya. Good morning. It's now 9:30.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
All right, so we'll still see mostly sunny conditions in Nairobi, warming up quite some, going to highs of 28 today, lows of 16. Sunny conditions in Nyeri at 19, highs of 26. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 22, going to highs of 28. 26 will be the high in Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy at 20. Cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 25, coming to highs of 30 through today. 30 will also be the high in Kakamega, mostly cloudy at 24. It's now raining in Mombasa at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Mostly sunny conditions in Malindi at 29, highs of 31 and lows of 27. It's sunny in Kampala, coming out of Kenya, highs of 28 today. It's also partly sunny in Dar es Salaam, a chance of rain later, going to highs of 32. 19 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 24, and cloudy conditions in Lagos at 26, going to highs of 34 as well. It's mostly cloudy now in Kinshasa, 33 the high. Looking into Beijing, hazy now at 7, highs of 11 and lows of -1. 17 degrees will be recorded as a high in Paris today. It's 5 degrees and clear. It's still foggy in London at 4, highs of 11 and lows of 6. And finally in New York, coming into Wednesday morning, it's 1 degree, clear skies, highs of 12 and lows of 2.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, folks around Manyanja Road, Outer Ring, Jogo Road, Donholm, still feeling the effects of that crazy traffic this morning because of that truck that overturned. It's been moved now, but still facing the traffic because of that. It has not ended. Mad traffic on State House Road for some reason. I have to find out what's going on there. In and outbound. Also, coming out of Westlands, looking a little bit better now as you get onto Huru Highway, but it's still moving slowly through into the CBD. All right. Allsops to Taj Mall using Outer Ring is a mess. So exactly, we see that sore thumb is hurting all the other fingers on the road this morning. Okay, so let's keep an eye on how it goes throughout the morning, and text us if you need to. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127, trying to be sane in all this traffic.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Marginalization of the coast. Our guest host today is Nasra Omar Bwana, digital curator, researcher, and author. Issue of leadership, you've raised it many times, CT. The issues of, what then needs to happen. And Nasra, you're saying, let's look at our history. Let's not forget that, because we are talking about historical injustices and how to address those historical injustices. So again, I'm going to come back to that question. How do we address the present with the history in mind, with that perspective in mind? So yes, we know that this happened. This happened for many years, pre-colonial, during colonialism, post-colonial, where we are now. And like Aisha was saying, let's not even talk about solving the problems of the future. It's today. How do we address the today?
The first step is accepting reality and accepting the fact and acknowledging it. If you don't acknowledge the problem, if you don't acknowledge the causes, then there's nothing we're doing.
How do you want this acknowledgement to be made?
Like now, what we're doing. Can't tell me, you can, but I will not accept that there's no marginalization in the coast. And this is something that people have in their heads. So first accepting that it's there, and then looking at what caused it. Because now you get people blaming themselves for the state they're in, but the truth is they maybe only contributed 20% to it. Hussein tells they're looking inwards, great work, but that is just a tip of the iceberg. The problem is systemic. So once we accept that the problem is systemic, then now we go to solve the problems in the system. Devolution has tried to work on that. And anybody who comes and questions or fights against the work that devolution is supposed to be doing, the example Aisha gave of 1 man, 1 shilling, the debate that was happening, it's now pushing back against those narratives or against those policies that they want to be put in or changing in the regulation. So once we accept what it is, then we can move forward.
I hear you and the importance that history plays in all of this. I can't, liken it to when you go to a doctor and they take your medical history. There's obviously something wrong with you at that point. So when they're doing the examinations, there's certain questions they will ask you about things that you did before that could contribute to your current situation, because they're not able to treat the current situation if they don't have a history of what happened, right? So then it gives them an inroad into how they would then be able to treat it, because there's certain things that you may have done, there's certain things that you may have ingested that they need to now get rid of to then allow this medicine to be able to work. So I hear you when you're saying that history plays a role, definitely, in all of this.
History and systemic injustice. It's now part of the system. Eric had said it's part of the system to the point it is normalized that we don't want to call it injustice anymore.
But you see, as I listen to you, Nasra, you're saying, and it's correct, let's look at the history, let's identify the systemic injustice. You're not answering the question, then what?
You had asked me where to start.
Yes, but you still haven't even said where to start.
Where to start is accepting it, because even in this show, and even the people who have called in, many have not accepted that. If we're not accepting it, what are we fighting? And we've been told not to fight, and we speak to people as friends, but the people are not behaving like they are friends. I think people have accepted. Are you sure?
The issues that they're raising is the approach, is the then what?
Now it's educating. We're at the stage of educating, and with people like Hussein now doing the dirty work of trying to work on give the Panadols for the headache and all these things. They're trying to realign the society into the new reality that they have been pushed into. But at the same time, remind people why it is the way it is and to stop it from happening again. Yes, leaders, before CT mentions it, because I know he's about to come and say leaders. And now, with the new knowledge, we're able to push our leaders, because even those leaders need the pushing. They need the guidance. Groom better leaders who will speak up on these issues.
Yeah.
And once we have groomed the better leaders, because the ones we have now, we don't trust them. They are now part of the system.
Do we groom them, or do we just identify them? Because you are a leader, for instance. Who groomed you?
I don't want to mention his name.
Precisely. But the point is...
there was grooming.
There was grooming, meaning there were traits that you clearly had, and you had a certain drive in a certain direction. Those people exist. It's not that they don't exist. And sometimes when you say it's systemic, yes, even at local levels, there are people who like the status quo, and they'll try as much as possible to snuff it out. You see it in people who have a community interest. The way they go about things, it is clear they're interested in seeing things that benefit the people, the way they go about it, whether it is with the fishing community, whether it is whatever it is that is important to that particular community. Okay? But I'm not going to mention leadership here in the context that you expect me to. but this is what I am going to say. You see, the dominant narrative that I was speaking of, which also is akin and a close relative of the dominant fiction, is this. Most people who do not come from the coast have a certain view of coastal people, and it isn't positive.
Yes.
When it's positive, is that they're easygoing and sort of like, sit under mango tree sort of like attitude towards things, okay? But the narrative that comes out of people who are called Wabara about the coast, it explains, because people from the coast get to hear it, and it is not only demeaning, but it is derogatory, and it is not anything that gives you the impression that these people or individuals treat you as equals.
What informs that narrative? Is it misinformation? Is it lack of complete understanding of the people? Are we talking about the Wabara who live in the coast, or Wabara who don't live in the coast?
I'm talking about Wabara, period. Even those who live at the coast, many of them will have the same attitude. They may not say it because they live there, but they will. What am I saying? I am saying this, bias exists in every human community. Every. But it becomes infinitely worse when it is leveled or is directed to people who already feel disadvantaged. You then create a situation where you're not only damning them, but you are more or less saying that you support whatever else has happened historically to them, and so your position by your utterances is this. This is what it means. Let me talk about narratives. For instance, let me talk about two dominant communities in this country. Kikuyu, Luo, dominant, all right? The narrative is that Luos are very educated and they're the most educated people in this Kenya. Is that really true?
And braggarts.
and loud. Is it really true? Then there are those who believe that Kikuyus are an entrepreneurial community, they are business-minded. Is it? Are they the only people who are business-minded? Yes, I will not say it. I'll let you say it. But
I'm adding the ones that you're leaving behind.
Yes, but are those narratives true?
If we were to be honest.
There are individuals who are representative, because if you talk about thieves, every community has thieves. If you talk about communities, every community
has educated people.
Yes. And more so in the 21st century, the numbers have increased. What am I saying? It is a narrative that is dominant, and people like to propagate it. Now, while this is being propagated, there were communities who, from now the historical perspective, were not viewed. The narrative around them was not positive. Now, anything that sounds that way in this 21st century just accentuates that negative notion. And this is something that must be fought. Now, you can explain it through, say, people are ignorant, but this is where now I'm bringing leadership. This is where now leadership comes in.
But the propagation of such narratives, CT, is by virtue of the very thing that we said from the very beginning. When you push a narrative, it doesn't come about necessarily because of a malicious intent, but because you don't understand the reasons as to why that negative notion came out in the first place. And I think that's why conversations like this are extremely important.
Can I also say,
because to explain some of the things that actually happened, a lot of people who push or propel certain things say it because they heard it somewhere else, because they don't necessarily understand really what was going on at the time when something like that came to be.
In a child, that is excusable. In an adult,
some of these narratives, CT, are actually propagated by the people themselves.
Explain.
Luo is a lifestyle, Luo Pian. This is that thing you're saying. It starts from the community itself. The members of the same community speak this way.
But they will propagate positive.
Is this a narrative? Is this? But you see the things that we talked about. Educated.
But they're positive.
Loud,
but he didn't speak of the negative ones. The community would not propagate.
Yes.
But the negative ones, like for the coast, I will tell you, and you can take me to the bank for this. It was a tool of disenfranchisement. When you say people are sleeping in the afternoon, so they're not hardworking. Yet these are the same people who have woken up 5 a.m., worked the entire morning, and the sun is too hot, and now it's time to rest. It's the same thing that happened in Hawaii. The missionaries went to Hawaii, and they said the Hawaiians are the most lazy people because in the afternoon they're in the beach surfing, they're doing art, and they're socializing. What they didn't realize is these people were working very early in the morning.
Before the sun
comes up. And in the evening, you will they would have finished all. It's about efficiency and all these things. So this same narrative, same thing, Spaniards in the Philippines. That's what they said about the people of the Philippines, that they are lazy. Malaysia, Indonesia, any community that's by the water, who have coastal communities that have adjusted their lifestyles to where they are at, end up being given these negative traits. And then that becomes a tool for them to be denied or be robbed of their resources.
That's
because mumelala.
That's true. So tell me, when Hussein was telling us about now this inward looking, and he said among the things that they've done is go and talk to the youth and tell them manual labor is labor.
Hussein, specifically, when I speak of the coast, my roots are Lamu. Okay? If you look at that problem, it's a problem of an urban center, Mombasa. It is, for example, me right now going to Kilimani, going to South Sea, and telling the boys there, you know what? You should be doing manual labor. There's something they have been used to for a certain amount of time, and they are used to a certain lifestyle, and they ended up not doing it. Yes, they need it, but urban centers, you will find those boys or those girls unwilling to do certain tasks. It's everywhere. But now when it's in the coast, it is stated as laziness. But kijana wa South Sea, if he refuses to do manual labor, he will not be called lazy. Lakini ako na degree. That's what they will say. If you go to Lamu, those same boys, they are working as harder than anybody I have seen. You look at their bodies, the way they have been chiseled by their hard work. It's nothing you can compare anywhere else, other than if somebody gets it in a gym. So how is it that these people don't want to do manual labor? Whereby when they are not in an urban setting, they are doing it.
You know what you're right about, Nasra? When the narrative suits a certain dominant community, then they will use it. Why did I give those examples, Eric? Why I give the examples? Because narratives always exist. But the impact of it and how it is received and responded to is very different. If you come from a community that has a historical reality of being marginalized, it's very different. It feels different, it sounds different, it's frustrating, and it is not welcomed. It's simply not welcomed. Most of it's not even tolerated because, Eric, there was a time I was in Mombasa, not very long, 2 years ago, during the month of Ramadan. And we happened to have a meeting at Serena Beach Hotel. And both my friends were fasting and they were donned appropriately. And a young gentleman who was clearly offering service came to ask us if he wanted a drink. One of my friends, this is an old friend of mine, a schoolmate, he was incensed. He told me, Muga unaona sasa watu wabara. Yani, this is Ramadan. Why on earth is this person offering me a drink? Does he not understand what? And I asked him, why are you so incensed? He says, look, this represents an attitude that you, Bara people, he's my friend, by the way, have towards us. You don't take time to understand the things we do, how we look at life, and how we live. And yet you've lived among us all this time. Yeah. When will you understand it? I'm just quoting my friend directly.
No, it's a fact. People will not understand. This fisherman left his house at 2 a.m. Sold his fish, bought enough, worked. By 8, he's back in the house. But what will we say?
They're still sleeping.
The whole day they're sleeping. And even these shows that come about, and the important part of telling our own stories, you see how the scripts are written about the people of the coast, about our mannerisms. And it's always, most of the time, it's not very positive.
Let's take a break at this point. 11 minutes to 10. We'll be back shortly. 0719 012 600. Join the conversation.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan?
Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da!
Japan?
Yes!
You will have to first learn Japanese.
No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable.
Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 10 to 10.
Okay, so I mean, of all these conversations that we've had on a social, cultural, governance level, most recently, maybe a few months ago, if we take it now, even onto the political point, it's been said, and very many people are from the coast are pushing for this and saying it's about time that coast had its own political party. And we see some pushback from that as late as yesterday. Do you think having a party from the coast, made up of people from the coast, leaders from the coast, will bring about some of these changes that we've been talking about this morning?
Possibly. With the right leaders, yes. But if the party is being formed for individual benefits, we'll end up in the same place. So if the leaders, and granted, anyway, if the leaders are good, just, and they're honoring the people, then yes, it is important to have a political party for the coast. And it's not to fight, or it's to advocate. And the nuances of the coast are different. The needs of the coast are different. And it's not just the coast. I wouldn't understand the needs of Turkana. I wouldn't understand the needs of Western Kenya. I would to a certain extent, but more so if I was from there. So yes, it is important, but only if the leaders have the needs of the people at heart.
You see, it has to start from somewhere. It's the idea that then starts, and then people accept the idea, and then people choose the leaders. So how do you attract the leaders? And as we were talking about all those things, I remember the example that was given by Hussein, and it's actually in the papers today. In Kwale government, so the Mvurya government has come up with a program called Elimu ni Sasa, in recognition of the historical injustice, the lack of access to education. Not many of the Kwale people have actually had access to education. And currently, the county government of Kwale is sponsoring 5,149 students in national schools, fully sponsored, and 2,500 in universities, fully sponsored. This is a government that has decided, so these are the needs. Dedicate a huge chunk of its budget to educate the people. So start from there and then say, now we can have a conversation about, I need more resources. I need more resources so that I can cater for this. I need more resources so I can build schools for the children to go to. I need more resources so that I can take more people to school. I need to work with the community. If you don't start from there, then how will it ever come to pass that a county government will be able to champion the rights of its people and for the benefit of the people?
Education is key. Education is a driver of change. The reason why the coast heydays were because some of the most educated people in Kenya were from the coast. And the reason why we're here is because of the fail of the system, the education system in the coast. So Kwale is doing a brilliant job. At the same time, we will still advocate for not just people to learn off the system of the rest of the country. There are certain nuances and spaces that need to be provided. There are technical jobs, for example. We can all go get degrees, finish with our papers and sit down and wait. But there are certain tasks or activities that can only be done at the coast or by the people of the coast. Cashew farming, things like that. So I would be happier, I am happy, but happier if we're also promoting the indigenous activities of the coast, training people how to do it better, and promoting what can be done there more and advocating for it more.
Actually, my point was that there is properly and good leadership that can come out of the coast. There is good leadership that can lead that thing that we are calling about. It's this big united party from the coast. There are very many people who can join such a party, such as yourself, and you'd be able to advocate the issues of the coast very well. I think if we start back by saying, but do we have the leaders? Then we're basically saying, let's not start until the leaders come. I think you should just start now.
At the same time,
start with the ones that are there.
City said, mountains, shadows, sunset. What did he say?
Nature.
Whoa.
So I know, I enter the system, I'll become, history has told us, you become the same beast. Chances are you'll be, if you're able to make more change on the outside based on how the Kenyan political arena is for the past couple of years. So if they have, and that's what I told Andu, if we have the needs and the desires of the peoples at our hearts, we are all ready to be in any political party.
When you talk about the coast, you don't know how right you are. The first MP for Malindi town was somebody called Francis Bobby Tuva. Now, we talk about the PPE as though it was invented in the 21st century. This is a man who took his constituents, his community, into a PPEs, public-private partnerships.
PPPs.
What does
PPE? It's okay. We
PPEs are those things that you wear when you.
Those are the KEMSA.
The KEMSA issues.
COVID has clouded
COVID,
our minds.
yes. I meant PPP.
Got it.
XE, please go away. Now, not only did they own a bus company, they owned shares in a beach hotel. That's how. This guy was MP from 1963. When the cashew factory was started in Kilifi, these same people owned shares. So I am saying, when you talk about leadership, forget the individuals. Ask yourself, what is it about this person that has a direct correlation to the livelihood of the people? That is not difficult to tell. What do we know this person for? For instance, Mvurya is known for the things he does. Every conversation, now ask yourself, is that true of other governors at the coast? The answer will be a resounding no.
Are
So
there
you
other people who
Yes, are there other people who are known to be able to do the things? Don't let them start. They're already doing it.
Yes.
Other people you know,
There are
they
many.
exist.
Yep.
So
So the leaders are there. It's not that they're not there. They are there.
Pick the
But
right leaders.
when they enter the system, they are swallowed.
It is all right.
So let
But-
them stay where they are, and let us. It might as well.
If Mvurya stayed where he was, we would not be having this.
This conversation. If he didn't stick his neck out and say, okay, here I want an opportunity to be governor, give me your vote.
If
I
Tuba
get
didn't
into
do
this
that-
position and do this, we would not hear the things that we are seeing today. If he stuck where he was.
I think it's because I've seen the people who've stuck out their neck and the path they have ended up in, or how it has been slashed by politics.
It is okay.
So we're scared of losing the
Out
good
of every
people.
100, 10
You'll
will
get
survive.
some. But now we only have 10.
One will survive.
You know,
That
even
one
if
is
one doesn't
enough.
survive this year, next year they'll survive. This is a marathon.
Mhm.
If you're talking about change, you're talking about getting your people to understand that they can do it. Getting your people to understand that there's a lot more that leadership can bring. It's a long journey, it's a difficult one, but that is just the reality of it.
And it starts somewhere.
It has to start somewhere.
Nasra Omar Bwana, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank
It's
you
been
for
3
having
hours.
me.
Did you feel the 3 hours?
I thought it was 30 minutes.
Voila.
Yes, that's what happens when you sit on that seat.
It's a hot seat. I think that's why it's called Spice.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to host you again soon. Continue the good work that you're doing. Final message to the government, the people of the people of the entire Republic of Kenya.
Jijue ndo ujitambue.
Right.
Can't stop, Nasra.
Bas. City, today's proverb.
Rulers are like hills. When darkness falls, they all speak alike.
You'll be swallowed by the system.
My friend,
The darkness.
perception is the reality here. Remember, I talked about the hue and the silhouette that is caused by darkness. If a certain hill had all sorts of shrubbery around it, in darkness you wouldn't see the shrubbery. What you'll see is a basic shape, just a shape.
Yep.
That's all you'll see, and that'll be a narrative. And sometimes when you talk about leaders at the coast, we look at them through that mirror of a haze, and you think they're all the same, and yet there are many who are different. Or the mirror we look at them through is that of politics, and yet there are people who are doing what needs to be done, and they're not necessarily politicians in the simple sense of the word.
Asante.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for more conversations. Good